And a very happy Monday to you at 12:06 in the West. It's the John Phillips Show. Mr. Rae Huang's in Culver City.
John, there has been an update in the Los Angeles mayor's race. Karen Bass already has two challengers in this race, Assad Al-Najjar, who's a city engineer, and, of course, Austin Butner, that nobody's paying attention to. But now Karen Bass has competition coming from her left with a DSA candidate.
No!
I've got to tell you, of all the candidates that we've seen file to run against Karen Bass, that is probably the candidate who poses the most threat to her.
She hasn't posted a website yet, but she's got an Instagram and she's got her launch video. Her name is Rae Huang. No relation. She is a...
Wait, Wang or Huang?
Huang.
Spell it.
Huang.
Okay, Huang.
Like I said, no relation.
Glad we cleared that up.
She is a deputy director of a Housing for All nonprofit and a pastor. And she's campaigning on free buses.
Okay.
Do we dare listen to her launch video?
Why not?
Here is Rae Huang.
405 pack.
Crisis is brewing at City Hall. Hey!
The video starts with her being stuck in traffic. I like it already.
It sounds like every 1980 Steve Guttenberg comedy.
LA is stuck. The city is unaffordable and our leaders are unaccountable.
Well, that's true.
And sometimes they even burn down your homes.
We've been promised solutions on housing, transit, and affordability. But every year, it's the same excuses, the same gridlock, the same results. The system's stuck, but we're still moving.
Music's a little loud.
They all do that. They drown themselves out with the music.
I'm Reverend Rae Huang. I'm a mother, a pastor, and a community organizer. I'm running to make Los Angeles.
She's a mother, a pastor, and a community organizer. She works for a housing nonprofit.
Is there any job she doesn't have?
A pastor and a community organizer. I'm running to make Los Angeles affordable and healthy, to lower our rent and deliver housing for all.
How?
It just sounds good, doesn't it?
I mean, this is the same group that's been advocating for this cap the rent at 3% nonsense that we talked about. But how do you lower the rent?
It seems like she hasn't thought it through.
To create an economy for the people, not the billionaires.
Never heard that one before.
Good job.
I guess if you're DSA, it's not plagiarism if you're just literally quoting Bernie.
No, it's just a cookie-cutter campaign that seems to be working in the big cities right now.
To create an economy for the people, not the billionaires. To finally transition to renewable energy and guarantee fast and free transit.
Whoa, she's paying for transitions too?
Not that kind of transit. Now, John, just as a quick little history lesson, what happened to LA Metro the last time we made it free?
It turned into a homeless shelter, and we haven't really been able to get them off.
But sure, free transit.
To keep small businesses open and achieve real public safety through mental health care and crisis outreach.
That means defund the police without saying defund the police.
More ambassadors.
Quite frankly,
I bet Ulysses is already endorsed.
Through mental health care and crisis outreach. We're going to make sure every dollar in City Hall serves the people who need it most.
That's not going to happen.
Nope.
It's LA we're talking about.
We need a new kind of leadership, free from the tired establishment and the billionaire.
I can't actually hear what you're saying because the drums are just a little too hot.
You're probably better off for it.
We need a new kind of leadership, free from the tired establishment and the billionaire class. Mayor Bass failed to deliver the housing we need and wasted taxpayer dollars with little to show for it.
Okay, I like this part of the video.
Okay, that part is factually true.
I mean, this is the thing. Karen Bass has not delivered for anybody. She hasn't delivered for people in the center, nor has she delivered for people on the left. She is a failure as a mayor.
No, but she hates Donald Trump, and she opposes Donald Trump at every turn. And historically, that's good enough for the left.
What if she burned your house down?
Well, those people don't live here anymore.
Mayor Bass failed to deliver the housing we need and wasted taxpayer dollars with little to show for it. Voters approved millions for homelessness, but the mayor only...
See how the music's getting more serious because now we're going to talk about the bums?
I thought that we approved money against homelessness.
Voters approved millions for homelessness, but the mayor only invested in Band-Aid programs and tried to sabotage real solutions.
Okay, I'd like more information on that one.
No, you don't. Well, at least not from her.
And the result? 6 people a day continue to die on our streets.
When Karen Bass ran for mayor, that number was 5. It went up.
And the number of homeless people living on the streets is going up, too.
Yep.
Figure that out.
Okay, the serious part of the video is over. We're back to the funky music.
I've seen the city move together through existential crises. When workers stood on picket lines, we showed up.
Okay, so she's one of these $30 for LA 2028 people.
I would love to know how many useless degrees this woman has.
I'd love to tell you, but it's funny. She doesn't even have a campaign website yet. Maybe the cool kids don't need websites anymore.
I think they're all on TikTok.
When masked ICE agents came for our families, we showed up.
Did you
Wait.
torch a Waymo?
So she's part of that group?
Apparently. I mean, she'll claim that she was part of the peaceful part. She probably didn't torch a Waymo.
What about after the Dodgers won?
Probably didn't. Someone torched a Waymo.
When fires raged for miles in LA's worst climate disaster ever.
That was arson. I love the fact that everyone's just rewriting history. One of the fires was arson, and the other one was started, allegedly, by a utility.
Well, even the one that was arson, it really exploded because of negligence, either on LAFD or the state or both.
Yes, but whichever one you decide to go with, it's not climate change. It's arson and then incompetence or a combination of the two.
When fires raged for miles in LA's worst climate disaster ever, we showed up.
What did you do?
Yeah. Did you put water in the hydrants?
I wonder if the nonprofit that she's the deputy director for, I wonder if they got any of that money from Fire Aid.
Probably. If they had nothing to do with helping victims, then the answer is most likely yes.
That's the Los Angeles I believe in. We're moved to action through struggle in community with love. This campaign isn't about me.
Never heard that one before.
Boy, is there a cliche that she didn't throw in that 2-minute video?
I don't think it really matters anymore. You can put all the cliches that you want in there. If you say that you're DSA based on the interest in Mamdani and the lady in Seattle, there's already going to be a base of support for her.
Oh, yeah, it's just a traveling roadshow at this point.
It's about us. It's about what happens when we rise up together. We can't tolerate corruption, we don't take corporate cash, and we will not wait for permission.
Gonna cut the line.
Do you take any nonprofit cash?
Well, that's how all of these people get rich. How many elected officials do we have in Los Angeles who came from the nonprofit world?
Nithya Raman's a great example.
Did Katie Hill do it too?
Oh, I forgot about Katie Hill. You won't forget.
No, we haven't talked about her in a throuple of minutes, though.
Let's get on our way.
There you go. There is the launch video for Rae Huang. She works at a nonprofit for housing, and she's a pastor, and she's a mommy, and she wants to be your mayor in the city of Los Angeles. What do you think?
So pass the collection plate. All right, here's the deal. It may sound totally insane that Los Angeles is willing to go from the frying pan to the fire. But when you think about how politics works, it's really cyclical. And there are rashes of similar events that seem to take place on a regular basis. And then when those movements pass, we move on to something else. It's like if you're a gambler and you like to play blackjack or you like to play baccarat or slots or whatever, when you win, you tend to win in bunches. You don't just win one hand, then lose one, then win one, then lose one, then win one, then lose one. Usually you win 3-4 in a row or you lose 3-4 in a row. You ever go to a baccarat table and you look at how many player hands or how many banker hands won in a row? It's usually a couple or more, and then it moves on to the other one. That's typically how it works. When you look at these socialist candidates who are experiencing success, right now is their time in the sun. We started out with that man in Chicago, Brandon, what's his last name?
Johnson,
no relation to Magic. And he ran against that gremlin incumbent who was a complete failure there, Lori Lightfoot. And he beat her. And he had the support of the teachers union behind him, and everyone understood that she was a problem child, that she was a failure. Well, it's Chicago, so no Republican's going to win. So if you're looking for an alternative to the machine Democrat, who do you turn to? In that particular case, they turned to a socialist candidate who's sitting on a what, 4% approval rating now? I guess the government owning the means of production didn't work out in the Windy City. So then you move on to New York City, where you have an incumbent mayor who has 1,000,001 problems, and then you had a former governor who killed your grandmother and your grandfather and anyone else related to you collecting Social Security. And then you had Curtis Sliwa, the guy with the beret who used to be a regular on 1990s daytime TV. And so the socialist candidate in that race won, Mamdani. And now he is going to be in charge of the Big Apple. And then you have Seattle, where you have an incumbent Democratic mayor who is completely Looney Tunes. And if you think our homeless problem is bad, you go to Seattle. They are everywhere. Seattle and Portland may be the two worst cities in the United States when it comes to homelessness. So that guy was running for re-election, and he was running against a socialist candidate who ended up defeating him in that election.
Katie Wilson.
That's right. The woman with hair down to her ass. She kind of looks like Scott Pressler, the guy who registers all the voters in Pennsylvania. So you now have a socialist mayor of Chicago, a socialist mayor of New York City, a socialist mayor of Seattle, with more on the way. And you have a complete failure incumbent in Los Angeles running for re-election after she burned down a portion of the city. And she expects voters to give her another 4-year term. Now, if she's running against a Republican, my guess is she'd get it no problem. But that's not what's going to happen. The only Republican that could run against her, well, there could be gadfly Republicans who can't raise any money or get any endorsements, but a former Republican, Rick Caruso, could theoretically run against her and self-fund. Rick Caruso ran against her the last time and came up short. Rick Caruso clearly believes that he has a better shot at governor than he does as mayor because he's kicking tires on running for that office, even though the only issues he appears to care about are city issues. If you're not electable, though, does it really matter? Which leads to the question, if Rick Caruso can't beat her and a Republican can't beat her, who can beat her? And the answer is probably another socialist candidate, because the socialist candidate will hate Trump just as much as Karen Bass. No one's going to get ahead of her on that, or no socialist is going to fall behind her on that one. Socialists hate Donald Trump. The guy's a builder. The guy's a capitalist. The guy is a Republican. The guy's a Republican president. What socialist doesn't hate that? So you're not going to out-hate Donald Trump over a socialist, but the socialist has the ability to do a couple of things. A couple of things that will work and play to the socialist candidate's advantage. And that is they can correctly criticize the mayor as a complete and total failure. That is empirically true. I defy anyone, and if you'd like to, you can give us a call at 800-222-5222. If you want to defend the record of Karen Bass, go ahead and try. I don't know what that argument is, but the socialist will say that Karen Bass failed to deliver on her campaign promises, that life in Los Angeles is not better now than it was before she was elected. It got worse. The traffic got worse, the crime got worse, the homelessness got worse, the dirt got worse, the fires got worse. You name it, it's hard to find improvement right now in the city of Los Angeles on her watch. And then when you're an incumbent, you have to service your campaign contributors. And if you're a machine Democrat, that includes the unions. That includes certain developers. That includes certain interest groups. And that creates even more opportunities for a socialist candidate to get to the left of the Democratic candidate. Because if she has the developer money, and by she I mean Karen Bass, then you can say she's behind the billionaires. She's behind the corporations. I'm for the people. It gives you an opportunity to legitimately say that Karen Bass is doing the work of her campaign contributors and not to the left-wing electorate that selected her. And you can find an angle like that with just about every group that supports Karen Bass, and you can attack her from the left, and you can remind voters that she's a failure. A socialist candidate, to my eye, provides a unique threat to Karen Bass and re-election. Right now, I want to open up the phones at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Do you think LA Mayor Karen Bass could lose re-election to a socialist? If it can happen in New York, if it can happen in Chicago, if it can happen in Seattle, I think it can happen right here in Los Angeles too. What say you at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222, 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Chicago was the first town to fall to a socialist mayor. Then it was New York City, then Seattle. Do you think Los Angeles will be next? A socialist candidate has declared for mayor, and she's coming right at embattled incumbent Karen Bass. What say you? Do you think LA will end up with a socialist mayor too? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you missed an episode from last week, I know a lot of people are starting their holiday vacations. You can go back and find out what you missed out on.
All you got to do is search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's the Apple Podcasts app, iHeart, Spotify. Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. You can do what all the cool kids do now. And all the cool kids, they get all their podcasts on YouTube.
Do a Google on YouTube.
I love that. That's one of my favorite drops of all time. And get the podcast on YouTube. Search for The John Phillips Show. It's all right there. And you, too, can find out all the things you missed out on, like this in front of the courthouse in Sacramento when reporters were blocking the bike lane.
And we'll have more on that later on in the program. If you think Los Angeles could elect a socialist mayor, we'd love to hear from you at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. And one more point before we get to the calls. When you look at the coalition that a socialist candidate could put together against Karen Bass, it's real easy to say, okay, Karen Bass is a left-wing Democrat. So anything to the left of her is a small piece of the pie. There are very few people more left-wing than Karen Bass, even in Los Angeles. So if Karen Bass gets all the Democrats where she is, gets all the Democrats who are moderates, gets all the Democrats who are conservative, if there's any of them left, gets all the independents, and gets all the Republicans, essentially everyone to the right of her, that is a large enough coalition to swamp a socialist who's only playing to the left of Bass. But that's not exactly how it works. If you're a socialist, I think it's assumed that you're going to get almost everyone who's to the left of Bass. But you can also put together a coalition that includes people who are not necessarily to the left of Bass, but they're upset at her and they're just looking for an outlet to punish her. And if you're just looking for a way to punish her, what you're looking for is the anyone but Bass vote. And that happens from time to time. You look at certain elections where you could never imagine in a million years voting for a particular candidate. If you're in New York, and you know that Andrew Cuomo was a complete disaster as governor and killed your relatives, you probably thought to yourself, under no circumstances would I ever vote for that man. But then when you see a socialist who's coming up through the ranks, who believes that the government should own the means of production, if you want to stop that, you have one way to go, and that's to vote for Cuomo. I guess you could have voted for Sliwa, but you'd be throwing your vote away. We took calls from people on this subject regarding the congressional race in San Francisco, where people who despise Nancy Pelosi said if she was the candidate running against Scott Wiener, they would end up voting for her. And they never thought in a million years they would ever end up supporting Nancy Pelosi. But given that choice, it's an easy call. The way that elections work is that they're multiple choice exams. They aren't essay questions. And you may not like both candidates, but if you're going to show up and vote, you have to vote for one of them. So you have to pick either someone to support or someone to vote against. And sometimes, if you are the alternative, you don't need people to sign on to your platform, and you don't need people to sign on to the product that you're selling. You just need them to show up to vote against the other person. And I think that's going to be part of the strategy for the socialist candidate running against Karen Bass. And given the number of enemies that Karen Bass has in the city, that could be enough for a candidate to win. All right, what say you at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222? Do you think that Los Angeles could elect a socialist mayor? Let's go to Jim in Alameda. Jim, hello.
Hey, John. Love your show. I just have probably a softball question for you, but how is it possible they couldn't have a moderate Democrat, that semi-famous person that might be, looking at running for an office to get started in politics? I mean, it's beyond me.
Well, I think a certain element of that is that the Democratic Party hasn't turned on her. A number of Democratic voters are upset with her, but the Democratic Party hasn't turned on her. And it's one of these things where if you're going to go against your own flock, if you're going to go against your own tribe, you better win. Because if you challenge a candidate who's still in good standing with the party and you lose, you're going to be cast away for good. They'll remember that forever. And that's the end of your political career. And the Democratic Party in Los Angeles still embraces Karen Bass. She is still in good standing with that crowd. Now, part of it is because as mayor, you get to appoint people to different boards and commissions. You can raise money for different organizations. You can throw money from the LA City budget out to a bunch of different organizations. They're all dependent on her. They all need her for one thing or another, and she hasn't offended them enough to start kicking tires on other candidates. So because of that, you're not going to get a mainstream Democrat challenging her. What you're going to get is a self-funder who says, you know what, I don't need the Democratic Party. I'm rich on my own. And that's how you end up with an Austin Butner and potentially a Rick Caruso. They don't need money from the unions or the usual places. Or you're going to end up with a Republican who's going to run against her with no chance, or a socialist candidate. And the socialist candidate, to my eye, compared to a Republican, probably has a better chance, unfortunately.
Right. I just thought that the problem with the fire, and I haven't kept up with it as much as you guys have, obviously, but after that, I thought it damaged her reputation so much that, that she wouldn't have a chance. But I guess I haven't been.
Well, it boggles the mind. How can you be a mayor that has a bigger barbecue than Janet Reno and win another term?
Exactly.
All right. Thanks for the call, sir.
Thanks for answering.
All right. Let's go to Cardi in Lancaster. Cardi, hello.
Hey, John and Randy. How you doing?
Good.
Well, we've already got a Marxist as a mayor. What say you? Why not have a socialist? People don't know the meaning of both of those, so they'll just vote for it because it sounds cool.
Yeah, when you talk about socialist candidates,
people are ignorant, John.
Yeah, there's not a lot of difference between the two, realistically. I mean, look at what happened in New York City, where a socialist candidate, in theory, should have been a threat to the Democratic Party, because you read the platform of the Democratic Party and they still claim to be capitalists. But boy, did they line up behind that socialist candidate lickety-split. There was no daylight between the Democratic Party in New York City and the socialist candidate that ended up winning the election. It's a very comfortable relationship for them. The fact that the Democratic Party is that comfortable with a socialist should scare the bejesus out of everyone.
Absolutely, and they're all multimillionaires, so they like capitalism, John.
They are, and the worst kind of communist is one with money. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Let's go to Sean in Venice. Sean, hello.
Hey, guys. How you doing? Awesome. Glad you're doing this. This next election's going to go to however the unions want to vote. Since Karen Bass gave the unions all their raises, I pretty much have a feeling they're going to throw their support behind her yet again. Now, if you look at the last election when she won with about 1 million votes. We have about 300,000 union members. You add 1 or 2 members of the household that might vote with them, there's your 1 million votes. Of course, you got the developers, you got the special interests that will also sway her way. So to me, unless we can get the vote out, we need more than 20% of the vote. The union's going to decide. And that's why all the tax increase. Every year for the last 10, 15 years, I've seen almost every tax increase. Why are the people of Los Angeles voting to increase their taxes? It's not us that are voting for that, it's the unions. So what do you think about that?
Well, I think that there's a lot of truth to what you just said, where I know it sounds counterintuitive, but if you give the unions a choice between a Democrat and a socialist, they usually choose the Democrat over the socialist. And you say, okay, now wait a minute. Unions are pretty left-wing organizations. Socialists don't care about busting budgets. Why wouldn't you support the socialist over the Democrat? Well, there's a couple of reasons. First and foremost, when you're a Democratic incumbent, you already have given them what they've asked you for. So you have a relationship of working with them and coming through on promises. They know you're unlikely to stab them in the back in the future. You're a known quantity. The other thing is that when unions negotiate, they negotiate not just for salary, but they negotiate for pension and welfare, healthcare too. And if healthcare is something that you really go to the mat on, if you say, okay, we're not going to push hard on wage increases this cycle because we want Cadillac healthcare. We think the cost of healthcare is going to shoot through the roof. So we want all kinds of concessions from management. In the case of public employee unions, that would be the government, and private unions, that's whoever's in charge of the company. And frequently what these unions will do is push for Cadillac benefits, first-class health care, as low a premiums as you can possibly get. Well, if you win on those negotiations and you get what it was that you were asking for health care, a socialist candidate's going to want to wipe all of that out and put everyone on Medicare for all. That's something that almost every socialist candidate I have seen supports. That's a given. Well, if you're going to put everyone on Medicare and the unions have won all of these fantastic health care plans, and maybe it's not just this contract cycle, but maybe you're going back 2, 3, 4 contract cycles, you're going to erase all of the gains that they have made. Because had they known that we would be going to Medicare for all, they wouldn't have bothered to negotiate to get all of these goodies with the health care plan. They would have negotiated for salary or pension or other things. So the unions not necessarily or don't necessarily want to all be dumped on Medicare for all, which is something the socialist candidates do. Which is why in this scenario, if the match ends up being against Karen Bass against a socialist, I think Karen Bass will have the unions yet again. Thank you for the call. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. Do you think L.A. could be the next big city in the United States to elect a socialist mayor? I think it's entirely possible. What say you at 800-222-5222? 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Eric writes in with a little different opinion at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. I'd take the socialist over Bass. If the Chicago mayor is a socialist, then I'd go for that. I went on a recent vacation to Chicago last month, was expecting a war zone, and I was shocked it was far from it. 0 homeless, didn't see one, not even in the downtown loop. Streets were dirty, but far cleaner than L.A. Same with metro trains, not clean, but cleaner than L.A. MTA and cleaner than Dallas Transit that I rode last year, and plenty of police around to feel safe. Chicago today reminded me what San Francisco once was when I was a kid in the 80s and what it should be today.
Talk about grading manure, though. Good Lord.
On Caruso doesn't want to be L.A. mayor because L.A.'s heading towards bankruptcy. In a prior race, he wanted to increase police and sanitation. No way he can increase spending on that now. He's going to have to cut. The Olympics will do L.A. in anyway. Why would he want to put himself as the captain of the ship when it's beyond saving? There is that.
Let's go to Frank in Glendale. Frank, hello.
Hey, John. Yeah, I think we should be very aware of these next, socialist candidates because LA could definitely become another socialist stinkhole like some of these other cities. And I'm just curious, there's these groups that I've identified, the California GOP, Reform California, which is Carl DeMayo's thing, and Fix California, which is Rick Grinnell's thing. These 3 groups seem not to work together for some reason, and I would love to see a concerted effort to get some candidates in for the city council and have them work together to get the vote out, because it seems like Democrats are always working together for a united cause and we seem to be split. So that does bother me.
Well, it used to be that all the money ran through the parties, but now the money doesn't run through the party anymore. The money runs through all of these independent groups. And when the money runs through all the independent groups, all these independent groups have their own consultants and strategists and printing houses and fill in the blank, and everyone takes their cut. So instead of having one clearinghouse where you spend all the money and you have everyone on the same page, you have all of these different organizations that have all of their own agendas and have all of their own payrolls. And what happens is, and you see this a lot with non-for-profits, you see this a lot with charitable organizations, sometimes the administrative costs just gobble everything up, and the actual spending on whatever the cause is relatively minimal. It's not just in the clergy. It's not just in non-for-profits. That's the way that politics works too. And sometimes it's done that way by design. Sometimes people are involved in politics because it's an easy way to make a buck. That's where their contacts are. That's how they know how to do it. And then you just end up with a lot of money being raised, but not a whole lot of evidence of any of it being spent on the cause that it's supposed to go to.
Yeah, if that's a problem, do you see any possible solution? Like, do we need someone like Trump or Scott Presser or someone to come in, take over the California GOP and like unite these three parties? And I mean, I understand that they work independently, but if they could just unite around a candidate, I think that could do some good.
In the old days, it was the party that did it. And it was a bunch of big fat guys in pinstripe shirts smoking cigars in smoke-filled rooms, and they were the ones that hammered all of this out. A lot of people were disgusted by that because you had this small cadre of people who were making all of the calls. They not only decided how the money was spent, they decided which candidates the party would go with. They decided anything important that came from the party regarding the race. And the power was stripped away from those people, and it's now decentralized. It's not just the three groups that you just mentioned. There's a whole bunch of them that exist out there that are all fighting for the same dollars, that all have their own messages and their own agenda. And it's not just something that's true for the Republicans, by the way. The same thing is true with the Democrats. I mean, look at what happened with Prop 50, where the Democratic Party had a certain message, but so did Gavin Newsom. So did Alex Padilla. So did Tom Steyer. So did Rick Caruso. So did any number of other individuals and groups that was trying to put their message out there. It's very difficult to have one consistent message when you have that many messengers and you don't control them. It's one thing if they work for you and you can say, shut up or I'm going to cut off your money, and you better shut up or else. That doesn't happen anymore. You can't threaten these people. You can't force them to stay on message or to spend the money a certain way. Everyone's in charge of their own self right now. And it's good from the point of view of just, I guess, individualism and staying away from groupthink. But it's awful if you're trying to put a message out there and get people to pay attention to it.